Yo hablo inglés. Okay.
Please.
This is forward.
Yes, for where are we? Yes.
So, I'm studying in the United States. We have to do grad school, tertiary. Most people in the Caribbean, if you want to do a PhD or graduate school, you tend to leave, especially for aquaculture, because there's not really a solid aquaculture program. And over a period of 10 years, I would visit Jamaica to do consulting with various NGOs, USAID, IDB, and up to between 2009 and 2018, every time I visited, I saw that there was a gradual decline in aquaculture. And this is very alarming because Jamaica was number one in the Caribbean in the 70s and 80s for tilapia production. So every time I visited and I saw that it was going further and further down until 2018, where there was not even an aquaculture course at the major university or in an agricultural university. And so that was very alarming, but I didn't know what to do. I wanted to do something and it just didn't happen. Then came, fast forward, the pandemic. I moved from the US to Italy, and Italy had the most stringent lockdowns, and I had nothing to do. So I felt this need to connect with Jamaica. I started reaching out to the farmers that I used to work with, and I found the positive of the pandemic was everyone had a cell phone, and everyone now knew about Zoom. So I could actually connect with them and try to find out what was happening in Jamaica. And we did several conversations, and I recorded them so you can see on YouTube. And from these conversations, we realized that we needed a network. That's what the farmers told me, because the farmers were not working together. They didn't feel comfortable sharing their secrets. We had a thriving ornamental fish industry which just fizzled out, and no one was working together, so they needed a network. So I decided I had all this time, I was going to form this network. So we formed the Caribbean Aquaculture Network in 2021. I started a mailing list, and in order to get people to the mailing list, I used to have workshops, and the workshops were free, and Dr. Paula and Heidi were one of the first my colleagues to start giving some of these talks where people would sign up to online, and we started getting all over the Caribbean, even as far as Africa and India, coming to these virtual workshops. So we realized this was something that was needed. In fact, when Paula gave her talk on Lake-Tilapia virus, no one had heard about it. And for a country that raises tilapia, this was alarming because they didn't even know about this emerging disease. So this network continued on to 2021, and we realized how important it was. And I switched to a sort of a magazine, because I started a magazine, and I write about what's happening in the Caribbean, and it serves as a mailing list. So if you want to join, this is the site. And as of now, we have 180 members from 19 countries logging in. And as of the end of 2021, we kind of slowed down on our workshops because we started getting more people, more momentum, and wanted to know where we're going to go with this. So as a background, from these conversations, there are statistics out there, but it's really nice to understand from locals and people on the ground what's happening. And as you can see, where the world is going up in aquaculture, the Caribbean is only 0.05% of the global. And then that's extremely alarming. And from this conference, I feel like I'm the only English-speaking person here. So that just goes to show what the situation in the Caribbean. So just to give a background of what's happening, Jamaica, just because I'm from there, I don't know a lot about the other Caribbean countries. Agriculture and fisheries only is about 7.75% of the GDP. However, although the captured fisheries is low and aquaculture production is low, 200,000 people benefit from captured fisheries. Now that may seem like a small number, but we're a small country of only 3 million people. And for the coastal region, this is a large number and a large industry, so they depend a lot on fisheries. Seafood consumption is very high. We actually import 20% of the volume of the seafood that is consumed. Now that comes mostly from tinned food, so the culture is very entrenched in tinned sardines, tinned mackerel, and we eat a lot of dried codfish, like in bacala. So that's where that is coming from. So we depend a lot on seafood for nutrition, but it's not being produced in the country. Just a background of what is happening in Jamaica. So tilapia, like I said, has gone down tremendously. Some of that is due to cultural preference. Now we're a seacoast country, so we're used. I grew up eating marine fish, so when tilapia was introduced, that was very hard, and still very hard to get people to eat it. Although during the pandemic, when everything shut down, and importation, was at a standstill, people got to like tilapia because it's very similar to the marine fish. So that's a thought. The ornamental fishing industry has huge potential just because of the location. We're close to Miami, Florida, but for many, many reasons that just never came to fruition. But the potential is still very much there. Freshwater and marine ornamental. Shrimp industry, we have had, I know of at least 3 large companies that have invested in Jamaica, and it just fizzled and they had to leave. Primarily because of inputs. We are an import country, so everything to do with running a hatchery, running a shrimp farm, feed, the energy, that's one of the main reasons why it fizzled out. The oyster industry is very labor intensive. Climate change is affecting it, so that's a question mark. And seaweed, there's potential, but it's at an infancy. Queen Kong and spiny lobster is a fishery. It's a very lucrative fishery, but only a few people get a part of it. It's an $80 million US industry, and only maybe of the 700 million tons of both Kong and lobster that is exported, only 50 is consumed in Jamaica. So that's just a little background of what is happening in aquaculture. So people ask all the time, why are we not where we need to be? There's no representation here. Mainly, so the costs. The cost is so high. Again, we're an import country, so feed, energy, getting quality seed stock into the country is too expensive. Our local market in itself, just the attitude towards aquaculture, people are not really understanding what aquaculture is, neither do they really like the tilapia, like I said. So it's not competitive, our export market is not competitive to Africa or to China. Lack of research, there's zero research, zero innovation. We need the policies, we need better policy, we need the climate crisis. Our waters are warming. Our small island, our Caribbean small island countries are feeling the Caribbean crisis a lot more with the increased hurricanes, flooding, and warm waters. It's very slow to digitalize, very slow to get technology, and we just cannot scale. So these are some of the primary reasons why where we are today. So how do we achieve this? We have been told, FAO has put it out there, oh, we need ocean farming. Or do we just try to work on our fisheries? What do we do? In my opinion, open ocean may just cause more problems because we don't have good environmental policies, we don't have anything in put. So that's on the table, but maybe continued at the end of 2021. I started interviewing my colleagues to see who else was out there, and I noticed as I went along that there were quite a few women scientists, but like me, they're not living in the Caribbean, they're living outside and around the Caribbean, but we have this passion to give back to our country. So my friend, Dr. Carla, she actually went back to Trinidad. We studied together at the same university, and she was able to start up, do a lot of stuff in Trinidad, but she eventually left and she's back in the States. So, and again, brilliant Fulbright scholar, but not able to stay. And I started interviewing, and so now we have a series on online magazine called The Fish Site, so you can read more about. We're doing a series of 10, so she was one of the first ones I interviewed. We have Shauna, who actually is in Jamaica, and she's working on a comp project that I think Dr. Megan Davis might be going there to help to start up a hatchery, but we already had some work being done. So Shauna, she is a marine biologist, but she is integrating aquaculture with marine biology. We have Nishika, she is doing her PhD, and she's an entrepreneur. She's an example of what entrepreneurship looks like, where on her family farm, they grow tilapia, people can come on, do some fishing, fishing activities, and then they prepare the fish and eat it right there in Southern Park. So she got a scholarship with the Branson Center for Entrepreneurship and learned about business and development, so she's a perfect example of that. Ruth, who is in Belize, is finishing up her PhD, and she's very into working with Women's Seaweed Farmers Association, developing seaweed and anything off products to do with seaweed development. So she actually designed this scarf for women who work out in the ocean, so it helps to protect them. Leanne, who is she's an extension officer, currently doing her master's in association in Iceland. She is very vibrant and has been very beneficial in bringing on at least 4 or 5 other women from the government extension office into the program, and they're also excited about trying to learn more and do more with farmers in Jamaica. We have the Bahamas, Nia, she's an engineer, and she's she's an aquaponic specialist, but she's starting up some feed trials. She's interested in looking at local feeds for nutrition. And then we have Key Farms, which was actually started up by 2 guys in technology, and they're an example again of entrepreneurship that we need. They hire a lot of women, and they are teaching us about investing and trying to get ventureships and getting money for entrepreneurship. So by January, February, we noticed we had so many women and so many women scientists. And with International Year of Artisanal Fisheries, there was this call, and we answered the call, and we decided we were going to form Women in Caribbean Aquaculture. And it's led by this amazing team of women scientists, and we want to do more with women, teaching them finance, literacy, and getting them further up the chain, because women, although they may work in Jamaica and work well with men, they have a very limited ability to get into senior positions, and so we need more women in these positions. So I have to stop a moment, and this is my amazing team. They are the reason why I'm here today. They show even more passion than I do. They all have at least a master's or a PhD and have studied around the world. Right now we have Ruth and Stacey Ann are in the UK. 3 of them did the Erasmus Mundus program. Stacey Ann, who has master's education, is a Marie Curie scholar. She's very much into education. We have Danielle, who's currently in Australia. She's an environmentalist. We have Misha and Mia, who are both, or did work with FAO. Misha's currently with FAO. And Dr. Lisa Benjamin, she is into public health and One Health, and our only male. And I have to say, this is just an example of the fact is that we have more women scientists, and which is why we thought it was really important for WACA to be formed. Ricardo, he's a very vital part of our group, but he's the only male scientist that stepped forward to be a part of this group. So his mandate is to try to engage more youth and more men in science. So that is our platform, that we want to do more aquaculture sciences, and this is a new face of the Caribbean Blue Revolution. So what is our wish list? We need cheaper feeds. Our wish list, we believe, is very different from I think the rest of the world, Africa, Europe. We are very, very small islands, and being island nations, we are susceptible to other problems than what other countries have. So I think it's about time that we stop lumping these small islands together with other aquaculture groups for these problems. We need cheaper feeds. We need to have more sustainable energy. Our coastal solutions need to be addressed. Our fisheries are overfished. Maybe 4 or 5 species have been decimated. So we need to be addressing these solutions. Climate resiliency, our hurricanes, every year it gets worse. Who is talking about protecting the current farms, or what are we doing about current farms? So these are just some of the wish lists that we need to address. Our focus, again, climate resilience, food security. When we saw that when there was a pandemic and importation shut down, as a primary country that imports, that's very scary, whereas that food coming in, we can't import it. Nutrition, we need to look at aquaculture for better nutrition. And again, low cost feeds and sustainable capture fisheries. So we believe that our young people are our greatest assets. We all hear all the time, people want to come in and invest and make, have these large farms, and we have seen that it's been tried, it's been done. So our interest is putting the investment back into our people, so that they don't necessarily have to leave. If they don't want to go abroad and study, they can study there. Our education system is very good. We have a universal education system, which is one of the highest in the world. Our primary and secondary education is very good. So we want to be able to transform the universities. Again, there are no classes for aquaculture, fish health, nothing. We need more R&D, we need to develop science, and because we're small islands, instead of quantity, we feel that we should have quality. So if we start off with quality work, then there's a capacity to expand. And entrepreneurship. Jamaica is a highly entrepreneurial country. So this incubators to foster entrepreneurship will be very helpful. So based on these ideas, we are launching, and as of yesterday, we launched our landing page for Caribbean Aquaculture Hub, where we believe, and my team and I, because the scientists are going to be the ones managing this, that we need an education and innovation hub that combines science, technology, business, and governance. And we feel that this is the way forward for introducing aquaculture into the Caribbean. So we need to change the attitudes towards aquaculture. If I'm if I go around and tell any of my colleagues what is aquaculture, then I will say agriculture, aqua what? So they have no idea. They don't think of it as a science because I had to study every single science. And so we want to introduce it from a different point of view and different angle to change the mindset. I'm an innovator, that is my specialty. I did a lot of innovation research. We want to take it from the bench top all the way to the market and work with entrepreneurs. And you can see very well, just connecting all the stakeholders from government to academics, NGOs, and private sector. Benefits. So this is where we try to explain to students who are interested in science. In Jamaica and the Caribbean, if you're going to study science, more than likely you're going to end up being a medical doctor, a nurse, or engineer, and it's just getting more and more expensive for these fields. And we want to open it up to tell them that there are options, that if you want to study sciences, this is an excellent option because we need more scientists. It's a huge generational gap. In fact, my team, not to date me, they're 10 to 15 years younger than me. So there's a huge generational gap that needs to be filled. We need more health specialists. There's 0 in the Caribbean, and more research and development. Now, even more than in my day, there are more scholarships available. Half my team went on a scholarship. I got a scholarship to study, so that's more than likely the only way out today. So if you want an opportunity to be able to travel or to go to a developing country to learn more, there are scholarships available. And then there's a lot more grants available for small and medium businesses. So the benefits and opportunities are there. It's a huge gap that needs to be filled. So this is our impact. We hope to fill that huge gap with younger people, younger scientists, more farmers, more entrepreneurs, and we want to really educate the country why aquaculture is needed. The Caribbean countries, the smaller countries, why aquaculture is needed. So I call Mia Motley, our CARICOM Prime Minister. She is so vibrant about the CARICOM working together. We are such small countries, we're such young countries. Jamaica is only 58 years old. So we have to be able to work together, to be able to share these resources. Her quote is that we need to pivot, we need to have new ideas, and think of what our scientists can do so we can work together. So that's our mandate, to work together to promote resilience and environmental sustainability. So I want to thank my team, especially Ricardo and Stacey, who really helped me to get this data together. Again, I don't live there, so having all of these people on the ground to give me the statistics. And this amazing woman, Catherine, it only takes one person to believe in a vision, and after only 2 discussions, she believed in our vision, and she's our sponsor, and thanks to Panama for having me here today. Gracias.
Please, questions? Just one?
We don't have a mic.
Microphone. Julian.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Julian, for your very nice presentation. And see, from the Latin American and Caribbean chapter, we always want to be inclusive, and there's always the challenge always for us is how to incorporate the Caribbean, because all the continental part is, let's say, easy. And I'm really happy if Paola asked me to be here. and thank you, because this was wonderful. And I'm already thinking, how can we from the chapter help all these wonderful purpose and initiative you are heading, and with all this group of, I mean, you mentioned so many nice things, this group of ladies in different countries trying to do something for the Caribbean is very nice. So I will approach you later. I have several ideas, but thank you for letting us know that what are you doing. It's always from the chapter, and this is like a board meeting you have here. The two directors, the secretary, the treasurer, and the president. So the board is here. So it's excellent what you just show us, and please keep your presence in our meetings. We are going to Colombia next year, and we will be in touch with you, not only for what you are doing as women, but for what you are doing for the aquaculture in the Caribbean. And there are so many ways. I mean, I was thinking how to help this, how to help you. And there are several ways we can help through FAO, what you are doing. FAO, you know, FAO now has the small island developing nations, so
Right.
separated, and just 3 days ago they approved from the South Committee, they approved some big money to support something like what you're doing. So I can link you to some of the people there. And now what I'm trying to summarize is that this is wonderful. We will try to incorporate what you are doing in the chapter because it's very important. We're the Latin American and Caribbean chapter.
Yes, Caribbean parts.
Yeah, no, it's always a challenge. It's not really that we are excluding anyone, it's that it's so difficult sometimes to come in touch with people who is doing what. And I see you are heading a nice group there, and thank you for letting us know. And also this is the education session. You talk about so many things that I think from the chapter we can try to help with you.
Gracias.
Una más.
Thank you. I really appreciate the talk. I was curious, from what I've heard, is there's a lot of standoff from governments and from fishermen in the Caribbean that don't necessarily want the development of aquaculture because they're a bit worried about the competitiveness that it will cause with their fishing efforts. And I was under the impression that this is one of the things that is kind of stopping people. I know there was a conch farm that they tried in Trinidad and Tobago, and this was the issue. The government, the fishermen went to the government and they stepped in and they said, oh yeah, this is competing with local conch fishermen. And so I was wondering if you've seen this in other situations, or if you haven't, or if there's some sort of solution.
No, well, I can only speak for Jamaica, but that's not a problem in Jamaica. The problem with our fisheries is that there's not enough policy. This is their livelihood, and although we have one of the best in the region, the conch fisheries and the lobster fisheries is actually doing good. It still wasn't before, and so we've reached that limit. But if you're going to tell coastal people to stop their jobs, there needs to be a solution involved, and not many solutions have come forward. So even during that period in which they're not able to fish, we need to give them opportunities to have other jobs, and this is where aquaculture comes in.
Okay, so you would say instead of doing just an aquaculture business and excluding fishermen, try to include them into the...
Yeah, which is what is happening in Jamaica. We have several fish sanctuaries that is starting to include the fishermen, teach them about the sanctuaries, and it's an education program that we need to work with communities and younger people to understand what aquaculture is about. So again, they don't really understand what it is, and so if that happened in Trinidad, I can't speak for Trinidad, but if that's what happened, I mean, it needs to be explained to people what aquaculture is about. It's not to replace, but it's to help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.